I teach a module called Refugees, Rights and Realities. So why am I interested in the issue of forced migration? Most people recognise that the movement of people across borders, refugees, is a matter of huge political and humanitarian concern. In fact, there are over 10 million refugees in the world, over 10 million stateless people, and 12 million internally displaced persons. So for me, refugee studies raise a number of issues, not only the humanitarian one, but also huge ethical questions. Who do we let in? Should we prioritise citizens over others? Who makes these decisions? What do we owe, if anything, to the refugee? It's also a subject which involves a lot of difficult and technical questions in relation to law. For example, what is the role of law? States can sign up to a convention relating to refugees, and this dates back over 60 years to 1951. In fact, it was introduced to deal with the mass migration of peoples during the Second World War. So one of the questions might be, is it still relevant today? Well, let's take an example currently in the press, that of Syria. We all know that there's a huge problem in Syria. Over 2 million people have moved across the borders. But for people in the West, we might not even be aware of what's actually going on. Most Syrians move in the region. They go to countries such as Jordan, Iraq, Lebanon, Turkey. A lot of them are placed in camps in very difficult circumstances, but probably the majority find their way into cities, into urban settings. However, most Middle Eastern countries are not signatory to the convention, so the international community has to step in. And one of the questions is, how do they do it? Should they do it? What is the involvement of non-governmental organisations in the UNHCR? So we can just see, with the example of Syria, we'd have to address a number of really critical questions. Helping other states. What happens if they end up in what we call a protracted situation over 5 years, which is very likely? Who funds this? And should the West be taking a greater responsibility? Arguably they should, but they're often very reluctant to do so. So I hope in offering a course on refugee rights and realities, we can address some of these overlapping themes: the ethical, the humanitarian, and the jurisprudential.